for Thursday, September 23rd, 2021. Can we start with a roll call, please?
Director Radak.
Here.
Director Lohman.
Here.
Director Clark.
Present.
Director Penrose.
Here.
Director Slater Carter.
Present.
Shedai.
Here. All right, can you introduce the others? And
Yes, I have staff with me, starting from Tim Costello, who's our supervisor of treatment and field operations. I have George Evans, our finance officer. Susan Turbe, administrative. Sonia Andish, operations. And our general counsel, Jeremy Ungras.
and yourself?
And myself, Kishan Prativadi, general manager. Thank you, Barbara.
All right. Do we have anyone who would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Anyone from the public?
Barbara,
Yes?
just one stupid comment, that's all.
Okay.
With all the extra meetings, I'm going to propose to MWSD that they pay directors by the hour instead of by the meeting. So,
That'll make the
there is a
meeting
government
short.
code, water code provision that deals with that, but I'm sure your general counsel can look into it.
codes, really, who cares? Come on.
All right. Any other members of the public who want to speak? All right. Moving on to regular business, implementation options for SAM existing non-domestic waste source control program and regulations approved in resolution 2-94. Kishan, can you give us?
Yes, for those of you who are probably at the meeting for the first time or haven't sat in previous meetings, I'm just going to start off from how this all originated. Way back in October 2020, the plant started having upsets, and we had a couple of violations in October, November, December, and we decided to hire a consultant, which is Brown and Caldwell, to look into the process upsets going on. They finished their study. They came in, did a lot of site work, assessed the situation, and came up with several recommendations, which have been projected to the board in a meeting in July, as well as in the last meeting in September itself, and August and September. And a couple of their recommendations are being implemented already. Like one of them is the aeration basin number 4 to be upgraded and to put diffusers. We're already working on that. We've ordered for the diffusers. It was brought to the board a couple of weeks back, and we got the approval for that. The other recommendation is that because of the upsets which are coming in, they wanted us to look at the influent coming from outside the plant and investigate and see how we can bring that down, because the biochemical oxygen demand was BOD, as we call it. The loads coming into the plant was pretty high, and those were causing the upsets. And therefore, SAM decided that, along with the staff and with the consultant, decided that we should reintroduce or go into depth into the non-domestic waste source control permit program that we have in place. In fact, a small correction, SAM has already been doing this program for quite some time. SAM has not discontinued this program. SAM has been pursuing the fats, oil, and greases program, which is a FOG program, as a part of the NDWSCP. They have been doing it every year, but what has not been done is going into depth and going into source control part of it. And therefore, because of these upsets which are coming in, SAM has decided to pursue this program, and it was brought to the board earlier. And in our latest meeting last month, the board directed SAM staff to discuss it with member agency managers and come up with, look at several options and come back to the board with the recommended option. So now here we are. We had discussions with the member agency managers. We had 2 meetings with the managers, and they recommended that we pursue the resolution which was adopted by the SAM board in 1994, which was the NDWSCP resolution. It was actually passed in 1991. It got modified in 1994 as 2-94. And the member agency managers recommended that SAM continue to pursue this program for at least a period of 1 year, and then will be reviewed and see whether the member agencies would like to take it over or would continue further with SAM. And therefore, here we are. We wanted to inform the board and everyone else that we are continuing with the program, and staff is here to answer any questions. And I also have my consultants who are well versed with this program out here. So that's for the introduction. And yeah.
Could you explain how this program is going to work briefly?
Yes, the program starts off with filing an application for registration. And incidentally, the application was sent out to all the establishments first, about 7 establishments, which primarily constituted of breweries, wineries, and distilleries. It was sent out, I think, in the month of August. And then we had a workshop on August 30th, wherein we invited all of them to the plant. And we had almost, I think, 2 to 3 hours workshop wherein all questions were answered. It was made very clear how the program is going to function. So we have requested that the establishments turn in their application to us. And after the application is submitted to us, SAM would then visit their facility and carry out inspections. And this will typically be done by SAM's hired consultants who are well versed in the field. And they would be visiting the establishments, conducting inspections, and also performing a sample at that point of time. A sample will be drawn by the discharger at that point of time in front of the inspectors. The sample will be sent for analysis based on what the sample is going to say and based on the type of establishment that they are, if they're industrial dischargers, what they qualify for. And we have laid down certain guidelines, which is in the staff report, and that would indicate whether they are they would require to take a permit. So based on the analysis, the results which will be obtained from the samples and these guidelines, the consultants would recommend to SAM, and SAM will then determine if a permit is required. When a permit is required, there will be clear-cut guidelines as to how the conditioning and monitoring will be done, how often the samples would be done, and the various steps will be clearly indicated, just like what has been indicated in the resolution 2-94. So we will be adopting the same guidelines, what has been spelled out and approved by the board and adopted by the member agencies as 2-94. Yes, questions, please. Clarification.
Matthew, you had your hand up. Did you still want to speak?
Well, okay, yes, I will.
Well, I called on you because you had your hand up, so.
I did. I thought we were moving along, but the general manager just stated that SAM has been doing the non-domestic program for a long time, and it's never continuously. 10 days ago, we had a staff report that flatly said the program was halted in 2014. There's been a lot of controversy in the community, and people don't know what's going on. And I think a lot of the source comes from different information being given out at different times. And this is a perfect example. We hear today that the program has been going on ever since its inception, whereas 10 days ago, we were told the program was halted in 2014. So people get confused when they hear about these kind of things. And I'd like to make another point. I see that this staff report says twice that SAM believes that the BOD is the problem for that needs to be solved. That's a good step, I think, because it's a step down from previous reports that said this is the cause of the problem. Now we're at SAM believes that that's the problem. As you know, our general manager has done analysis and has not come up with that same conclusion. I think at some point it should be made more known to the public, who I get questions from, that there were other factors involved. Brown and Caldwell report for instance, says that after the initial upset back in October, that too much chlorine was put into the system, and and that has a bad effect on the good bugs. And so that people don't generally know that, but it's in the report. And they have also, their report also says that the FOG program should be resumed, which makes it sound like the FOG program had been ended. And I've been assured that the FOG program has not been ended, but I have yet to receive assurance that the FOG program is back to the level that it was before the upsets and before COVID. And so I'd like to hear that at some point today. Anyway, there are other factors that the public generally hasn't been exposed to, such as the effect of putting Aeration Basin 3 online at the beginning of June. And after there'd been no upsets in May, and then beginning of June, Aeration Basin 3 with the new small bubblers comes online, and there are numerous upsets in the next 2 months. So there's a lot of information that's not going out, and there's a lot of information that has gone out, and it's people are very confused. I get questions that are really off the wall because people just don't know what to think. And I'd like to see a little more continuity in what's presented for people to try to absorb. Thank you.
Okay. Can I respond?
Would you like to respond to a couple of those comments, and then
Yes.
I'm thinking that we'll give the board members a chance to speak, and then see if anyone from the public wants to speak. Does that work for everyone?
Perfect. Yeah, I will try to respond to whatever Director Clark has mentioned. Thank you very much for the information, Director Clark. I'll try to remember the numerous questions and clarifications that you have sought. But well, number one, I'd like to say I have also mentioned in the staff report, as well as today, that the non-domestic water source control program was not halted. And I've also indicated that fats, oil, and greases, the FOG program, is a part of the NDWSCP program. What I'm mentioning today is as well as what we mentioned in the past, is the source control is what we have not started. And that was primarily because we never had any upsets in the past. So we were fine doing the FOG control program. And once we had these upsets, we know that we need to go one step further and find out what the source control is doing. And therefore, we are pursuing it now. Now, as related to the various communications that Director Clark has been getting, yes, we are also at SAM disturbed by the various communications people are floating around outside SAM plant, talking not in board meetings or in board meetings, outside other district board meetings, or somebody who's not an engineer talking about engineering reports. We have a well-reputed firm, Brown & Caldwell, who are very well known nationwide, done the report and come up with studies, made several presentations to the board. So I believe that their report is an authentic, very good report, and I go by that. So if anybody needs clarifications, they can reach out to me, and I will reach out to Brown & Caldwell if I cannot answer questions. That would be the best source to get any clarifications answered, rather than hearsay from X, Y, or Z. Okay.
I will just comment that I submitted a whole bunch of questions to Brown & Caldwell a month ago, and I have still not received any responses.
Yes, Director Dye, you have not received it because I thought I should not bring it up in the special meeting. I'm trying to bring it up in a meeting wherein we can have the entire questions answered.
I don't need to have it done in a meeting. I just wanted some clarifications for my own purposes. And you said, please ask questions. And I did. My questions were actually so I could understand things better. But when you say that just ask questions, I'm just making the point that sometimes there is a bit of delay before there's a response. But I agree with you with most of what you said.
Yeah, so your questions are being answered by Brown & Caldwell. We have not forgotten your questions, Chair Dye. So that will be coming to you. But if you think we should just answer it to you, I'll send it to you. That's absolutely no problem as soon as I receive it. Okay.
That'd be great.
They are on top of it.
All right. Matthew, does that answer your questions for the moment?
Okay.
All right, so are there other board members who'd like to speak on this topic? Director Lohman.
Yeah, I just want to thank all the managers and all the staff here and all the board members for getting through a majority of this crisis. I think a lot of good work and communication has gone on. I think people are getting good clarifications of what the problems have been and reasonable solutions to move forward to solve the problems. And I'm just happy that we're moving forward at this point with seems to be a good 1-year test of the system, and we can see what works, we can see what doesn't work, and then we can adjust it if we don't like it. And I'm very happy that this has happened, and I can sleep again at night. So thanks everybody who's done good work on this.
Okay, anyone else want to speak? I second that, Rick. Catherine.
Yeah, I agree with Rick, and I am anxious to hear what the public has to say. I think it's a good report. And so, yeah, let's get on with hearing from the public. And with, I think a little more detail from staff as needed, but I think we should save our questions for the end.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak at this point? All right. Do we have any members of the public who'd like to speak? Craig Barrow from Half Moon Bay Brewery.
Thank you.
How many people are you speaking for, Craig?
Just myself. Sorry, we're a little hurried for getting our stuff together for the meeting. So I'm just speaking for myself. I haven't been able to speak to Michelle, and Dan's been quite sick the last few days, so I haven't been able to speak to him either. So I will just be speaking for the Half Moon Bay Brewing Company.
Thank you.
Okay. I think I second Director Clark's issues with kind of the opaqueness of the process. I think we all know that you scared us with the original registration with the Section D, and I think we worked through that. I think the workshop went a long way to building some trust between the two. By the two, I mean the sewer authority and the private businesses. I still worry. I watched the Montara Sanitary District meeting last week in horror, as it was factually said in the public forum that the breweries were causing the BOD upsets at the plant by a board member. And it's talk like that, the predetermined conclusion, that scares us. And it just backtracks the progress we made in the workshop. I would just like that we follow the data and we don't come into this with already deciding who and what the problem is. I know we've got good consultants, but we hired brewery consultants, so they're going to look at breweries. I'm happy that let's do the testing, let's get it done. There was some talk about having the individual districts pay for the testing. I'm not interested in having my neighbors pay for it. Again, just talking for the Half Moon Bay Brewery, so I'm happy to pay the $1,000 there or thereabouts, and let's get the testing done. I just want to get the vindication over with, and we can move on and find the root of the problem. I would like some sort of commitment from the board that we're going to at least test some more businesses before we throw our hands up and declare that we found that the breweries are responsible. Happy to take any feedback. Happy to take questions, obviously, but thank you. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Anyone?
Sorry to jump in. Moss Beach Kombucha seconds that.
Who is that speaking?
Thank you, Dan. That was nice.
All right. Does anyone else want to address this? Well, Rob Carpenter, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple comments.
Could you identify, if you don't mind?
I'm sorry, I'm with Blue Ocean Brewing.
Okay. Thank you.
So my big issue in this sort of goes along with the opaqueness of this is the program is not defined. And we seem to be running forward without having done the necessary detailed legwork. What are the guidelines going to be? Are they going to consider things like flow, which is probably more critical than BOD levels? So if I'm running a 1-barrel brewery, if I put 150,000 milligrams per liter of BOD in the system, you won't even be able to detect it out of your 1.4 million gallons a day. So what exactly, that's just a fact. If we add up all the breweries and distilleries on the coast, it's about 30 barrels of volume in their capacity. So for people who don't know what a barrel is, it's 31 gallons. So that's about 1,000 gallons of capacity that can be produced. If you look at wort, which is the highest BOD thing we produce, it's about 150,000 milligrams per liter in wort. You can go to the Brewers Association and see the numbers. If everybody on the coast brewed the same day, maximum capacity, and then dumped 100% of what they brewed into the system the same day, it would raise the BOD levels at the plant 100 points. So it would go from 400 to 500. So you can just do it. The math is really simple. You just take your volumes and run it out. 1.4 million gallons, 400 milligrams per liter BOD is what you've been running at, between 360 and 400. So the fact that people are still saying it's the brewery when it's actually an impossibility that we could have been responsible for numbers in the 900 to 1800 milligrams per liter at the facility is just ludicrous at this point. So let's just set that aside. But what I really want to see is a fully detailed draft program. What are the levels going to be? What are we going to do when you exceed the levels? What is the testing program going to be? And how's it going to function? It doesn't seem like a lot to ask that we do the work before we implement the program. So that's what I want to say.
Thank you, Rob. Anyone else from the public? Oh, I have a couple comments. First of all, I agree. I want to compliment the staff. There's a lot more detail in this staff report and information about how the program's going to work than there has been before. And I think everybody's worked really hard on it. I think we're making progress. I agree that we should move forward with this program. I do have a couple reservations. One is that the actual ordinance says it shall be unlawful for any person to discharge non-domestic wastewater into the sanitary sewer system without first obtaining a permit from the authorities. And it sounds as if right now this process is only going to be applied to these two very small subcategories. And I understand, I'm very happy that there is some specifics in the language to explain why these two categories were selected. But my first question is, can you just give me some idea of what your intention are? Is it your intention to bring this back? Is it your intention to actually go forward and apply it as it should be to all non-domestic wastewater dischargers in the SAM area? What is your thinking on that, as the ordinance says?
Yeah, so to provide that clarification, we have a list of potential discharges that could probably fall under the NDWSCP regulation. We have listed down some of them in a staff report, like meat and fish processing units, agriculture, floriculture, fertilizer units, holding tank waste like RV dump sites. Then we have painting, landfill, paper manufacturing, metal manufacturing. This is globally what I'm saying. So we're going to address it specifically to all these, to the SAM jurisdiction, and find out what is it that's going to, that is probably going to fall under the NDWSCP regulation. So as indicated earlier, not only today, earlier also we've indicated that this is the first phase, and the second phase we are going to address it to these fish processing units, fertilizer units, nurseries, and such establishments.
Well, I think that's spelled out really well. I agree with you. You've done a good job on that. But what about, I mean, there are other restaurants and so forth that are non-domestic wastewater dischargers. And that's what is covered by this. So is the plan to apply this to all non-domestic wastewater dischargers as the ordinance requires?
The restaurants are already covered under FOG program. So if after a discussion with member agencies, we determine that some of the establishments might be new and they might cause an impact, then we would go ahead and see whether they qualify for a permit.
All right, thank you for understanding that. And then my other question is on the costs for this. I think, again, big improvement in talking about what the process is going to be. I think that's great. But I do think it's fair to have some kind of estimate of what the costs might be. And is that something that's going to be developed as you get through the next stage of this? More specifics about how many tests and when and what the cost might be. Right now, we've heard that they might be monthly, they might be quarterly, and they cost $1,000 each, or where are you in that process of determining what the cost may be?
Yeah, from the constituents that we have indicated need to be tested for the first time during the process of registration, we found out from one of the certified labs that it does not exceed more than $1,000. But the discharger has the flexibility to reach out to any other lab and get quotations and move forward with them if it's going to be cheaper. Now, at the time of inspection and at the time of assessing whether an establishment requires permit, it will be determined. If they require a permit, it will be determined the frequency and see what potential they've got, what sort of discharges they're making. And at that point of time, we will determine how frequently we would need to do sampling or how frequently we would need to do inspection.
And will there be a report back to us on that?
Yeah, absolutely. We would tell you what's going on, but we would give you an indication. The board would give you, the staff would give, SAM staff would give an information to the board as to what's going on with the program, how many have qualified, how many require permit or why they do not require permit. Just that'll all be information. It should be transparent to everybody.
Great. Thank you very much. Those are my two questions. Director Ruddock.
Yeah, I would like to see just, one permit fee, and say what it covers rather than paying this fee for this and this fee for that and that fee for that. Just one permit fee. That's what we do with the city. And one inspection, a year, one test a year, unless you've got violations. I just, want us to manage this so that we're not constantly nickel and diming, our businesses. So let's try to make this, transparent and easy to implement, both for, SAM and the discharger.
Thank you. Director Clark.
Well, first I'd like to thank SAM staff as well for, I had some problems with this staff report, obviously, but now we actually have some meat of what the program is and how it will work and when it will be laid out. And I think that's very useful. It is clear that the next group, if there is a group, the next after the breweries and wineries, there will be a list developed of who gets priority based on potential impacts at the treatment plant. And there must be an existing list somewhere that has evolved over the years. It shows what kind of businesses or establishments are most likely to, one, qualify for a non-domestic permit, and two, potentially cause problem upsets. And I'm hoping that that's what SAM is working from. And I would like to have a copy of that grouping by priority, or how it's generally done elsewhere in the state and the country, please. And I think the table at the end is really quite useful because it gives steps, clear steps, and time frames. And I'd like to make another couple comments about that when we get a little farther into this. Thank you.
No, I think we're moving on. Do we have others who want to speak? I think if you've got more comments, now's the time, Matthew.
Oh, okay.
Because I think I'm going to ask for a motion in just a minute. Unless someone else, wants to speak.
Well, my first comment is in GCSD will have to research what new businesses have come online and what they do, because you can't tell from business names often or where they are, what they actually do. And a comprehensive list of all the businesses that have come online since 2014, when permits, after which no new permits have been granted, will take some time. So, Half Moon Bay does their own permitting, so they have their data is local, much easier to access than anything from the county. And MWSD has just generally fewer of everything, fewer businesses, fewer possible concerns. And, but I think that 1 week for our small staff to definitively find out from the county what's come online since 2014 may be a bit short.
Right. I think that we do have to solve the administrative issue of how to make sure we're keeping track of things. Director Reddick. But I don't know that we need to do that before we start moving forward with this part of the program. Director Reddick. Oh,
You're muted.
you're muted.
In one of the previous meetings, one of the business owners mentioned that they wanted to see sampling results or test results. And I don't think there was a lot of responsiveness there, but my understanding is that's a fully disclosable, it's fully disclosable information. So when they ask for it, they should be able to see, their test results. So I'm prepared to support a motion other than that.
Yep, I believe we sent those test results immediately. We sent it the next day.
Yes, I think some of them are do not feel that there was enough information, but as I say, I think that's a secondary issue to what we're deciding now, but I agree with Director Reddick, it's an important item. Director Slater-Carter.
Yeah, a couple things. I'm going to go back to the initial public comment. I think it is valuable, and I have found staff to be very receptive. When I have questions ahead of a meeting, I ask staff. And I think it's important. To ask staff these questions in a simple manner before the meeting, instead of bringing them up when staff doesn't have time while conducting a meeting to get the information that it needs to be able to fully answer questions. I see I don't think we need to have a motion or anything else. I think we can give direction to staff, but this is a program that was put in 1991. It was amended in 1994, and it was last looked at in 2014. We're not, as far as I can read from the staff report, we're not making any changes to it. So I think we should just give direction to staff. And my thought is, let's get moving on this. We have our National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit that expires in 12/31 next year. And we've got work to do, particularly with the 31 violations that we have for the upsets. That's a lot of money and maybe a bunch of different reasons, but we've got to deal with the regulators right now, and they're going to be setting the fines. And I would prefer to have the fines as low as possible. The NPDES and the non-domestic waste, were initiated by the Clean Water Act decades and decades and decades ago. And the Clean Water Act is pretty simple. It prohibits anybody from discharging pollutants into the waters of the United States. That's why permits are required. SAM is not an independent organization. It's doing the local job for the feds and the state. And so what I read that's going on is the district has set some the SAM has set some standards and needs to go out and set baselines for each business. And if the businesses if the businesses exceed the requirements, then they're going to have to do what they need to do to bring them down. And then we'll have to retest to verify. And I think the deal with the businesses and each member agency is it's up to the member agencies to be keeping an eye on what businesses are in them and to develop a working relationship with the other permitting agencies. And certainly I'm going to make sure that we put that in our general manager's job description when we amend it as a very specific, because it's the Clean Water Act and the intolerance for spills is much tighter than it was years ago. And it's getting even tighter. So we've got to bring SAM up into the 2022 and make sure that we are on top of it. The Regional Water Quality Control Board just did a study and a report on winery discharge. They've done one on brewery discharge. They're doing it on all kinds of discharge. And we need to be up to date on that. So, but I don't think we need a motion or a second because this has been voted on over the years and we're not making any changes. We're bringing it up.
I would like to see play a role in this, but Director Lohman, then Director Ruddock.
Can we get Jeremy's comments real quick on the necessity for a vote? Let's just go by whatever Jeremy says is appropriate at the time.
I think, Kishan is really the one who has got to move forward, but my recommendation would be there's a staff recommendation on the final page of the staff report. It'd probably be helpful to get a vote on that staff recommendation because that's what I think Kishan needs to be able to move forward.
Okay.
Thank you. Director Ruddock.
Muted.
Yeah, so it's important to us that we articulate a direction, preferably an emotion. That's, yes, we agree that SAM has to do its thing, but the city of Half Moon Bay is going to continue to do its own FOG, and Montero and Granada can continue to contract with SAM for that. But SAM's already delegated to us the ability to do our FOG program, and we want to continue to do that. So I think we need to make our, direction very clear and incorporate that. And I think it's best done by a motion.
Would you like to make a motion?
What page is the motion on?
It's page
on the 9th page overall of the packet. The final page.
Eight of the agenda.
I see Director Slater Carter has a hand up. Is it for the previous one or does she have a new one?
Oh, I see it.
That was previous. I'll put it down.
Okay.
Page 8 of the staff report, Director Ruddock.
The staff recommendation is to move forward with the NDWSCP registration process as detailed in the table above.
So move.
There a second?
I'll second.
Right. Who was first? Catherine?
Sure.
Okay. Do we have further discussion on the motion? I would just like to comment that I'm going to support this, but I am looking forward to seeing. I want to commend staff on making this clearer of how it's going to proceed and how it's going to be carried out. We all care about clean water and we all care about SAM doing what it's done. I do want to note that this is not a toxic. This is too much organic material in the effluent that's going into the ocean, not a pollutant per se. It's not something that is desirable, but it's not something that's, a dangerous poison of any kind. I think we need to move forward with this and get it going. And I look forward to continued and compliment the staff on all the hard work on this. And I look forward to continuing to make this process work well for everybody involved. Anybody else want to comment?
Nope.
We have our roll call, please.
Director Radok,
Yes.
Director Lohman,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Penrose,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Yes.
Chair Dye,
Yes.
motion passed.
Right. Anyone else have anything that they want to discuss with respect to this?
We can go back to the Giants again.
Yeah. They're about, I think they just tied it up. I don't know. I gotta go look. Actually, Craig Carroll, Debbie, you still have your hand up, but Craig, did you want to say one last thing?
No, Kishan, would you mind sending us all an email about the next deadline to get the registration form to you, as the previous one has passed? Please don't say tomorrow. Please don't say tomorrow.
Yes, definitely we'll send it to you and no problem. We'll email it to everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks.